Good day, students. So in this video, we are going to do a part 2 on how we find the volume of different prisms. These particular prisms in this video are more unique prisms. We're going to talk about a trapezoidal prism as well as a cylinder, which is a special kind of prism. So the rules for finding the volume of a prism are the same with these two prisms as we discussed in the last video. So in the last video, we discussed that when we find the volume of a prism, we're going to take the area of the base shape and multiply it by the height. How tall or how long is the prism? So a trapezoidal prism looks something like this. The base shape, if you can't tell by the name, is going to be a trapezoid. So it could look like this, which is called an isosceles trapezoid, or it could be a right trapezoid, which if I covered up this part right here, if one of the sides kind of formed a right angle, but as long as the two sides, the two bases were parallel, it could look something like this. This is called a right trapezoid. So either one of these kinds of three-dimensional shapes, something that looks like this or something that looks like this, is considered a trapezoidal prism. And the way that we're going to find the volume is we are going to take the area of the base shape, the trapezoid, and multiply it by the height, how long, in this case, the prism is. And if this building was like, it's not a building, excuse me. If this prism was standing up like it was a building, we would consider the height to be like how tall is the prism. So the way we're going to find the volume, the formula is we are going to find the area of the trapezoid. So to find the area of the trapezoid, we're going to do 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height of the trapezoid. And I'm going to put all this in a square, just like how we did in the last video. So that way we remember that this is the base shape area. This is our base shape, the trapezoid. And then we're going to multiply it by the height of the actual prism. Okay. So let's say, for instance, with this trapezoidal prism, we had the height of the trapezoid is 5. The height of the entire prism is 11. We'll just say centimeters. We can say these are all in centimeters. Our base 1 is 8, and our base 2 is 10. So now that we kind of have the 4 dimensions that we need, if I wanted to find the volume of this prism, I am going to do 1/2 my base 1 plus base 2. So that's 8 plus 10 times the height of my trapezoid, the lowercase h, 5. I'm going to put that in brackets, and then I'm going to multiply all of that times the big height of the prism, which is 11. So if I kind of go through and solve it, 8 times 10 is, or I'm sorry, 8 plus 10 is going to be 18. Half of 18, I could take half first, or I could do 18 times 5 and then take half. So I could rewrite it like this: 1/2 18 times 5, and then all of that times 11. And no matter which way I kind of solve it, if I want to take half of 18 and then do times 5 times 11, or if I want to do half of 18 times 5 and then multiply that times 11, whichever way I do it, I end up with 495. And we are talking about centimeters and volume, so our units are going to be cubed. So you'll notice I found the area of the base shape and then multiplied it by that height of 11. Okay. Let's look at the last kind of prism in this unit, and that is cylinders. So this is the last thing we're going to do on this page. So I didn't mention it before, but you can just draw a line and split your paper in half. And now we're going to talk about a cylinder. So a cylinder is, it's a special kind of prism. It has a base shape. However, the sides are not a parallelogram, right? In a cylinder, the side kind of looks like a tube. However, if we were to draw the net of a cylinder, what it would look like, I don't know if you've ever, with like a paper towel roll, or if you thought about like a straw, it's something that's a cylinder shape, or like a Pringles can, something like that. If you were to kind of cut it apart, the way that a cylinder looks when you cut it apart is it has 2 circles, for like the top and bottom. But then if you were to kind of unfold the middle part, it actually wraps out or flattens out to be a rectangle. So a cylinder is technically a kind of prism because the side is a parallelogram. It is a rectangle. However, it's just wrapped around that circumference of the circle. And when we talk about something called surface area later on, this kind of net of a cylinder is going to be really important to helping find that measurement. But just for the volume, the amount of space that is taken up in a cylinder, we're still going to use the format we use for prism. So we're going to find the area of the base shape. In a cylinder, the base shape is going to be a circle, and we're going to multiply that times the height, or how tall the cylinder is. And you'll notice to find the area of the base shape of a circle, we're going to either need our radius or diameter. I just kind of labeled what the radius would look like if we're looking at the base shape of a circle. The diameter would be that full measurement if I drew another radius going across the circle. So the formula specifically for a cylinder, the area of our base shape, to find the area of a circle, we're going to do pi times our radius squared, or pi times our radius times our radius. I'm going to put a square around that so we remember that this is the base shape. This is the base shape area. And then we're going to multiply by the height, how tall, or if this particular cylinder was like on its side, how long the cylinder is. So let's say, for instance, we have a radius of 3 and the height of the cylinder was 9. Again, we'll just use centimeters. So the way that I would find this, I would plug it into this formula. So the volume is going to equal to pi times our radius 3 squared times the height. So all of that times 9. So 3 squared is 9. So this is going to be 9 pi times 9. And what I kind of like to do is I kind of like to leave pi in its notation with the symbol pi until the very end, until I don't want to replace it with 3.14 until the very end. So that way I only have to potentially do like decimal multiplication once. So I could kind of think about this as, when we do equations like 9x, if I was to do like 9x times 9 to combine my like terms, I'm just going to multiply 9 times 9. So 9 pi times 9, I can do 9 times 9, which is 81. And then I just have to make sure that I keep pi attached to it. So 9 pi times 9 is the same as 81 times pi. And if I was to replace the pi with 3.14, and it just depends on the way that the question is formatted. If it wants you to leave it in terms of pi, we would say it's 81 pi centimeters cubed. But if we're going to replace it with 3.14, this would be approximately 254.34. And we're going to say centimeters cubed. So this is how I would write it if I replace pi with 3.14. And you'll notice again, I just found the area of my base shape, the circle, times the height of the cylinder. And this is approximately the volume of this cylinder, or the cylinder with these dimensions. So now you have learned how to find the volume for 4 different prisms: a cylinder, a trapezoidal prism, and in the previous video, you learned how to find the volume of a rectangular prism or a cube and a triangular prism. So those are kind of the 4 prisms that you will work with. Remember that the generic formula is always the same: the area of the base shape times the height of the prism. And then depending on the name of the prism, that's the area you use for the base shape. So trapezoidal prism, you use the area of a trapezoid. Triangular prism, you use the area of a triangle. Cylinder, area of a circle, and so forth. Here are your practice questions. There's just 2. I want you to do an example of each of the kinds we talked about in this video. So your first question is to find the volume of a trapezoidal prism that has a height of 3. The trapezoid has a height of 3. The base 1 and base 2 are 9 and 11. I made a error, that's why it's scratched out here. And then the height of the actual trapezoid is going to be 10. You can choose whatever units you want. I just left the units off. And then I want you to find the volume of a cylinder that has a radius of 4 and a height of 12. Again, you can choose kind of whatever units you want. So you can check your answers to both of these practice questions in the table of contents. I will see you guys later for surface area. That is where we are going next. Have a great day. Bye.